Indentured servitude is a form of labor in which an individual is under contract to work without a salary to repay a loan. Indentured servitude is popular in the United States in the 2020s, as many young people work in exchange for the price of living in America. Oh, wait, sorry guys, I read that last part wrong. I was kind of just thinking out loud there. The boomer run economy is so shit right now that millions of Gen Z have been forced to work internships today. An internship is a form of labor where you're not getting paid anything at all. It perfectly fits the definition of indentured servitude. There's literally no difference between them. So, why is it that they have completely different names when they're the same exact thing? Well, it's because if they actually accurately called it what it is, people would absolutely revolt against them. So, as a result, they have to lie, manipulate, and gaslight you by creatively rebranding and redefining all their modern slavery practices to modern day terminology that sounds better from an optics standpoint. As a wise man once said, the best way to run a dystopia is to not let people realize they're in one. This is something I'm going to call them out on every time, because it's just straight up dishonesty. I'm always down to have an honest conversation with those who disagree with me. For example, if you want to debate that we don't live under capitalism today, I disagree, but I'm willing to have that conversation. But if you're going to just straight up lie and change the meaning of words itself, this is where I'm going to call you out on your BS. The example of how they've hijacked the word internship to rebrand and redefine indentured servitude is a perfect example. But that's not the biggest lie they've ever told, far from it. There's a far bigger lie they actively tell you every day and has caused the needless suffering of countless millions of people. And we're going to expose it right now. You often hear this lie perpetuated by pro-capitalist shills to explain why they believe these absurd levels of inequality and poverty, wages are justified. Now, to properly break this down, let's first clearly define what the word skill means. This is important because, as I showed you earlier, these guys are experts at hijacking words and changing their definitions to suit the narrative they want to push. According to Merriam-Webster, the definition of skill is the ability to use one's knowledge effectively and readily in execution or performance. Notice how there is absolutely no mention of money or monetization whatsoever. The definition isn't the ability to use one's knowledge effectively. And oh, by the way, it only counts as a skill if you get paid for it. Skill and money are two completely different things. This is the dictionary's definition, not mine. If you capitalist supporters want to cry about this, you literally have a problem with the meaning of words themselves. Now, if we take the official dictionary definition of the word skill and apply it to real life, it actually makes a lot of sense. For example, there are many incredible artists out there who can draw absolute gorgeous masterpieces on the canvas. They will never make much money at it, but you would be an absolute fool if you didn't consider it a skill. Jeff Bezos would look like an absolute tool if he tried to replicate these incredible paintings. Before you capitalist shills start crying in the comments, I am not saying a street artist should make as much money as Jeff Bezos. I am saying the reasons Jeff Bezos makes more money than a street artist are completely unrelated to skill. If you want to say he deserves more money because of supply and demand, free market economics, or because his job is not as replaceable, those are all valid points I'm willing to accept and listen to. But you're going to have to use another word instead of skill to make your arguments, because this is just not the objective meaning of the word skill according to the dictionary itself. The fact that the word skill is even being used by economists is already totally nonsensical and shows how far brainwashed we are as a society. The process of skill acquisition itself is a psychological concept, not an economic one. As far as I'm concerned, the only people who are qualified to fully understand the meaning of skill are psychologists. An economist using the word skill is as ridiculous as a psychologist using the word margin trading. If a psychologist were to tell you that your poverty wages and living conditions were justified because you just weren't good enough at margin trading, you'd probably be like, Who the fuck are you to even be talking about margin trading? And we should view economists who tell us we don't deserve more pay because our labor is unskilled in the exact same way. You're not even qualified to talk about skill. You don't even understand the meaning of the word skill. So just GTFO with that crap. So far, I've only used anecdotes and individual examples to prove my point. But if we take a look at empirical data, it even further cements the fact that skill and financial success are two different things. Let's once again clarify the fact that a skill is something you have to acquire through practice and experience, not something you are just born with. This is a fact that every reasonable person can agree to. Here is an official, large-scale Georgetown study that proves the #1 predictor of future financial success is the wealth of your parents. Shocking, I know. Being born to rich parents is objectively not a skill you have to practice and acquire. And once again, before you capitalist shills start crying in the comments, I'm not saying that wealthy parents shouldn't try and provide better opportunities for their children. They absolutely should. What I am saying is, stop saying it's a skill. Stop calling it a skill because, #1, unless you're a psychologist, you're not even qualified to talk about skill in the first place. And #2, according to the definition of the dictionary itself, it just straight up isn't a skill. So, now that we've completely destroyed this skill narrative, let's talk about why they're so hell-bent on pushing it in the first place. Why are they so desperate to call low-wage workers unskilled and call themselves highly skilled when it's just factually incorrect? It once again comes down to their disgusting manipulation tactics of rebranding and redefining historical slavery practices so that people won't notice they're still doing them in the modern day. They've done a great job at playing the PR optics game, I'll give them that, but it's time we wake up and see through their BS. They argue that low-wage workers deserve their low wages because a lot of people can do them and thus their work is unskilled. But again, this is a factually incorrect definition of the word skill. Look at the dictionary definition once again. Where does it ever say that a skill has to be something that only a few people can do? It doesn't. If you want to argue that jobs a lot of people can do don't deserve higher wages, you need to use the word replaceable, not unskilled. This is actually the factually correct definition, but replaceable work just sounds horrible from an optics standpoint. And they know this, which is why they lie, cheat, manipulate, and deceive you by using an inaccurate definition. Also by using the word unskilled, they resolve themselves of any responsibility to improve your wages and working conditions. Their underlying message is that it's not our fault. You were just too lazy to go out and acquire the necessary skills. Never mind the fact that it's going to cost you $50,000 of student loan debt to acquire these skills. We're just going to conveniently gloss over that. And if you thought this was bad, this is actually far from the worst deceitful manipulation tactic they've done to you. A lot of modern-day corporations are actually repeating a slavery tactic that was commonly used in the post-Civil War era itself, known as sharecropping, to trap young people in modern-day slavery today without even realizing it. Check out this video right here to learn more.